Like the alphabet, hiragana and katakana represent different sounds. Hiragana is curvier and represents native Japanese words not covered by kanji, which are Chinese characters, as an example of their usage. Katakana, in turn, was developed as a women's handwriting system in China and was adopted for Japan in due course. This was to simplify communication between women. Romaji, literally Roman characters, means characters like those you are reading right now. They are Western characters and are used for things like road signs, even in Japan, as part of Westernization, which resumed after the Second World War. And we can't have American soldiers getting lost, now can we? So they have things like road signs in English, just so that tourists and soldiers and people from foreign countries have a more difficult time getting lost. I assure you it is not impossible, but the signs help. As you can see here, we have these charts, hiragana as well as katakana charts, that demonstrate the basic sounds. The 5 vowels, N, which is alone at the bottom, and things like ka, ke, ki, different sounds that are consonants combined with a vowel. And there are also combinations like hio, hiu. So they're not just 2-letter sounds, they're 3-letter sounds, as we would read them in English. The complete charts can be found online in various places. I myself have had a few of them made to help people with their understanding and making the first step towards understanding the written language. I'll explain a little bit about how to learn this stuff and how to read it properly, because I believe that this will help people in self-study, because most teachers teaching this in, quote, real life, unquote, expect people to learn this on their own without any assistance. And I think that's a little unfair. Good romanization practices, that is, using the English alphabet to demonstrate pronunciation, shows the following. So older systems that don't show this can be just left by the wayside, dumped in the trash, etc., etc. Shi in katakana, not S-I, S-H-I, chi, not C-I or T-I, C-H-I. Tsu, not T-U, T-S-U. This is how it's pronounced. This is how it should be read. Then you have E, like the E of Canada. Eh, man. Then you have the O, like in oh my. These characters are spelled with a word processor and found on the charts as HE and WO, but they are romanized as E and O, and they should be. This is how that they are said in Japanese. So when you're reading basic phrases saying Tokyo e, which is to Tokyo, towards Tokyo, that is how it should be understood. Then we have wa, which is written in the same way as HA, and found on the charts under HA, but it is pronounced wa. That's how it's done. That's how it has to be understood. Now, similarly, a little bit differently, we have Ji and Zu, which have their own normal entries, but which can be spelled with variations which look like DI and DU. But these sounds don't exist in spoken Japanese. I've seen names such as Minazuki, which would read literally like Minaduki in kana, but nobody says this. They should never be romanized as Minaduki and so forth, because it's the zu sound that is heard, and sometimes people will do it not knowing better, but that's not how it should be. It's just not a sound that is used in Japanese. And the Japanese themselves wouldn't read it that way, so you shouldn't either. As you might have guessed from looking over the previous material, Japanese does not have consonants without vowels in their alphabet, with the sole exception of N. So, how does one write kata in Japanese, which means I won, I won? You read it like this, kata. Then we have a half-size tsu in the middle, which indicates a double consonant. It indicates that the last ta is tta, and that's how it should be read. And that's how it should always be romanized. If I'm disappointed, and I want to write zannen to express that, which means, ah, shucks, too bad. How do I do it in katakana? In hiragana, rather. And we write it like this, za-n-ne-n. It takes a little extra work when you're playing around with a word processor, but this is how it's done. You make sure that the N is alone. In hiragana, a long vowel is plain as day, like in okasan. And you wouldn't read this or say this ever as okasan. There is no such word. But in katakana, a dash is used, and while no one would write okasan in katakana, let's write card, kado. Kado, card, is an English loanword, and as you see, a dash is used for the long vowel. Textbooks teach us that Japanese people are rarely consciously aware of the different pronunciations of the N sound in isolation, like nda, the N there, which is an abbreviation for noda, which is much more advanced material. But the point being, you don't have to worry about this. So if you're worried about how to pronounce the N sound too much in different situations, don't bother. If people can't hear the difference, it's not going to matter. There are other things which matter much more, and we are getting to that. Dialects vary across Japan, but one thing to pick out is a dropped vowel between voiceless consonants, which would be K, S, T, P, and H, or at the end of something that is preceded by them. For example, instead of suki desu, this would read for I like it. It would read ski des, with dropped vowels. It would look like ski des, like skiing. But that's what people say for I like this. As a rule of thumb, quote, authentic Japanese people, unquote, stress different pitches depending on where they come from, but the syllables themselves are not any longer and louder by themselves, as they would be in different English dialects. So we have an example, as in one example, namai and takai, with different emphasis on the pitches, but the syllables are not any longer. And even though that there are different pitches, that there's a different emphasis on the parts, it's not like the syllables are being singled out. There's a stable rhythm and pace with Japanese, even though that you have the dropped vowels and certain things like that. But the point is, it's a pitch accent, and that's important to understand for comprehending how people speak for real. Katakana also uses variations with small vowels to try to express Western words that don't exist naturally in Japanese. And so here we have California, dinner party, dinner party. When the Japanese are using their writing system for loanwords, they are taking a square peg and trying to bash it into a small round hole. So there are imperfections that come out, and that's just something that somebody learning the language and reading it from an English speaker's point of view has to understand and appreciate, because you're going to see things that just come off as weird. But you get used to them.